Hello everyone, and I'm Ben Coleman, one of your hosts for the Florida Aviation Network. We're coming to you live here from the Florida Aviation Museum here at the Sun and Fun 44th Annual Sun and Fun Convention, International Convention to Fly-In. And as with most all of our presentations here, it's all done 100% by volunteers, by the way. And thank you for anyone who volunteers and dedicates their time and their effort to furthering aviation, the industry, and of course the safety element is it's where we got our start, that's where we're going to get our finish. And coming to you is all the presentations we have here at Sun and Fun are informative, and it's trying to get you kind of familiar with the flavor, the flair of the folks that come to these events and who grew up basically in this industry. And with us this morning here on the Sun and Fun Complex is Bill Pancake, Helen Woods, Paul Carroll. Is it Woods?
But you can call me whatever you like.
Okay, that's why I'll call you ma'am. How's that?
I'm not in the military.
Okay, all right. Aviator?
Well,
Aviator?
fly.
Call you aviator?
Well, I'm a flight instructor.
Aviator. We're all aviators. Let's develop that.
Yeah.
Bill Pancake. Bill, welcome.
Good morning.
Morning.
Glad to be here.
It's good to have you here.
Back in West Virginia, it's cold and snow, and in Florida, it's nice and comfortable.
Well, and Bill, how did you get your start in aviation? And this was last year, wasn't it? You just got started last year? Year before, okay.
Yes, sir. Probably I had my first airplane ride in a Taylor craft. Pretty sure it was the 6th of September, 1946.
46.
And the bug kind of struck me then. And, but life wasn't too good starting out early. Things were kind of rough. We had no money. I had golden eyes. Aviation, I'd work a little bit, whatever it took to make a few dollars. Well, not dollars, really cents. That I could buy a balsa wood model airplane and put it together. I was 7 or 8 years old at that time. And things started growing. Everything I liked to do, I liked electrical work, the radio, electronics really, machinist work, meteorology, navigation. Everything that I liked I could find in an airplane or about aviation. And it kind of grew on me over the years. Worked my way up at a small airport. And I can remember one of the occasions at the airport. I was 14 years old and I was doing some repair work on an airplane on an Veronica Champ, and I had my first run-in with the CAA, that's the forerunner of the FAA, which became FAA the 1st of December of '58. But anyway, I was caught behind a hangar doing maintenance work on an airplane unsupervised, and the CAA, they didn't care too much for that. Anyway, we got through that hurdle and soloed when I was 16 on my 16th birthday, the 9th of February, 1956. I went to Cumberland, Maryland, because our airport closed on the 1st of June of 1956. And the CAA would come around once a month, and they would give private pilot a written exam, which at that time was 50 true and false questions. And I studied the Acme course from Fort Worth, Meacham Field, Fort Worth, Texas. And I think there was 300 questions on that, and it said all assumed to be correct, so I took their word for it and memorized most of them and passed my private pilot written exam with a perfect score. That's the only Fed exam I ever had a perfect score on. But anyway, I got a private pilot certificate, moved on up to a commercial multi-engine instrument flight instructor, and A&P and an IA certificate. And life has been good to me in aviation. Of course, I worked at another job. I was an electronics technician for a big company for 42 and a half years. When I planned on getting married back in the early 60s, I knew I needed a job that paid more money than what I was making covering Aeroncas and Taylor crafts and J3 Cubs and so forth. So needed a little better paying job, something with benefits and insurance, and I got a job working for a company in instrumentation and process control. And that was a good job. And I worked with mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, and I got a good education from those gentlemen. I always regretted I never went to college, which we couldn't afford it at that time. I had no money. College was expensive. I don't know, a couple $100 for tuition, which we didn't have it then. But I've taken corresponding courses in instrumentation, electronics, meteorology.
Well, Bill, it sounds like you've done a pretty good wide swath in aviation, and the industry's been good to you, and you obviously have been good to it. You're still here. You hadn't lost any limbs, any accidents or incidents?
No, I 62 years of safe flying. Never put a scratch on an airplane, and I hope I can get another 62 years without putting a
there's
scratch
some wood
on
here.
the
We're going to knock on wood, as they say.
Been an A&P. I've restored a lot of airplanes. I've had quite a few winners at Oshkosh. I think 12 or 13 winning aircraft awards at Oshkosh. And
Well, the name Bill Pancake is, there's a lot of folks that know the name Bill Pancake.
yeah, they asked me, they said, "What's your real name?" He says, "Pancake's your nickname." I said, "No, Pancake's my real name."
That's it.
And
And
so it's pretty well known in aviation, the name Pancake. It's pretty well associated with the Aroncas. I used to work at Burlington, West Virginia. That's where I met my wife around 1958. I worked there for Aeronca Sales and Service. And of course, Aeronca was not building aircraft at that time, but we were maintaining them. And so I got my start there at the old Kaiser Airport and at Burlington Airport, and I worked part-time at the Cumberland, Maryland Airport. And but I had a good life.
well, Bill, then I'm not going to associate the name Pancake with the term pancaking in, as they say. You know I had to, you never heard that before, have you?
Comes. There's
Okay.
one last thing I'd like to say. One of the main reasons that all this is happening is because of my lovely wife.
Excellent. I'm
She
glad.
is a very efficient, high-performance woman.
And
She dresses nice. It costs me a fortune for her to look that trashy.
but she's also very patient.
Very patient, and the 16th of June, we will be married 55 years.
Good for you.
We've had a
Congratulations.
good time.
Very good. And well, I tell you, Bill, stand by just for a second. Helen, and it is Woods with an S.
Mm-hmm.
Helen, welcome to Florida Aviation Network as well. Flight instructor. I know you're very, very proud, and we need you.
Well,
We
thank you.
need you desperately. And Paul Carroll, what is your claim to fame?
I'm the fast team rep, the winner of the North of the East Coast.
That's right.
Yeah.
See, I
Yeah.
knew that, but I'm just
Yeah.
getting you a chance to tout yourself.
Well, I don't
fast
do that
team-
very well.
Well, you should, because the fast team representative is FAA safety team,
That's right.
and you are there to help on a
Promote
volunteer
safety.
basis.
Yep.
Just get the word out and
Yeah.
try to organize meetings, and try to gather as many folks as you can,
Right.
and try to figure out how to work the website to get in and get all that recorded on the FAA website.
And that's a challenge.
But if you can do that, you deserve to fly and operate
right.
anything you want. And Helen, are you a fast team rep?
No.
Helen, would you like to be a fast team rep? Someday, maybe?
FSDO turned me down.
Okay, well, there's always another run at it. There's an
I just give my
opportunity.
stuff to John Kutcher, and he submits it for me.
Good,
Yeah.
good. Where do you flight instruct?
I flight instruct out of the Bay Bridge Airport in
Okay.
Stevensville, Maryland.
And I understand you like to get your feathers wet. Is that true?
Oh, no, I try to keep the wings out of the water, just the hull.
But just the feathers, just the
No,
tail feathers.
Well, they get a little wet, but the Sea Ray tries to keep most of its control surfaces out of the water.
Is that your favorite?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And how many hours do you have in?
I don't know. I'd have to go check my logbook.
Okay. Well, 5, 50, 100?
A couple
500?
hundred, but I don't know.
That's
I
good.
just have to go check my logbook. I didn't expect
and
to be
you haven't
asked
had to, you
those
haven't had to
questions, sir.
swim back to the shore?
We did nearly sink last year.
Well, that's good to develop because I mean that's just part of the
But
reality.
we wear
of-
life jackets for that
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah. And flying on the water is a lot of fun. And for those who haven't done it, we always recommend that they do. And Paul, what is your? I know you come to the FAST team to help spread the word, get aviation safety out there.
Right.
How do you do that?
Well, I got the easiest way is through the SPANS announcement. So you get up as a FAA rep, we have access to typing up the message, and then that goes to the local FSDO FAST team program manager, and from there he gets approval on a national basis, and then the email gets sent out, and it's my responsibility to write up the what the seminar is going to be, who the selection of the speaker will be, and then give credits at the end of it. We just had one this past Saturday at Textron. Textron's headquarters are in Rhode Island, and as you know, Cessna and Lycoming and Bell and Beechcraft and Hawker are all Textron companies. We had 167 people at the safety
that's
seminar.
a good turnout.
Yeah, it's a very good turnout.
Wow.
And we were hosting a FAST team event where we held all 3 wings programs in one day with 3 speakers. And we raised $2,600 for Bridgewater State University for the kids to go do national champions.
That's good.
So
That's
it was
good.
really a cool thing to kind of combine education and aviation safety all in one thing, and then help raise money for the kids. And one of my partners, one of the FAST team reps, raised all kind of gifts and prizes all on his own. So it was quite an accomplishment.
Well, and again, Paul, and Helen, if everybody was a FAST team rep, we wouldn't. There's just it takes. How do I say this? I was a FAST team manager for many years.
So you understand.
It takes a lot to keep track of your representatives.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that there's X amount of numbers that you can effectively handle.
Right.
And because you become ineffective if you start to spread yourself too thin. So I'm glad to see that they'll rotate it out, because there's some folks that will be reps for a while, then they'll have to go do something else, and it's just going to rotate in and out to get more folks involved. But Helen, flying is fun.
Yes.
And it's you've been involved with it for how many? When did you start flying?
I think I got my pilot's license when I was in graduate school.
Okay,
So
so you were an adult, and but growing up, did you
When
have
I-
a fascination or?
yeah, when I was little, I was hyperactive, and my parents, instead of medicating me, did just drop me off at the local airport.
Good, and hang on the fence. And,
I had a
what-
picnic table.
Good.
I wasn't allowed to leave the picnic table.
Well, so all right, well, that's a good place. They knew where to find you.
Exactly.
Sure. And and the Sea Ray. Do you own a Sea Ray yourself, or
I own a Sea Rates in our flight school. We do training on it. So
good? And where is this based? Has
we're
he
at the
Chesapeake?
we're at the Bay Bridge Airport in Stevensville, Maryland.
Okay, so in Maryland. Okay. That's now coming up some pretty decent flying weather up there. When does the
It's
season?
snowing. It's horrible up there.
It's horrible right
Yes.
now. Okay, there you go. I will not leave. I will leave that one alone.
The water
but
temperature is 46.
That's a little bit chilly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like to. When does the season kind of open up?
It varies year by year. You know, this time last year it was getting nice in there, but winter doesn't seem to want to leave Maryland yet. I've actually written to AOPA twice, requesting that they have a discussion with the town leaders of Puxatawney, Pennsylvania, about that groundhog.
Okay.
So,
Let me know if you have any progress with that.
actually, I did get last response from AOPA was that they were unable to reach the town council of Puxatawney because Puxatawney was IFR in snow.
Okay. Well, I evidently the weather system hasn't gotten the word yet that it's spring.
No, all of us were very glad to be here in Sun and Fun. My co-pilot and I flying down here, staring at the outside air temperature gauge on the plane the entire flight down.
And it was slowly
Absolutely.
climbing.
We were sitting there
Okay.
calculating the lapse rate to figure out what it was on the ground as we marched along to the south.
Interesting. And then, Paul, how did you get here?
I flew commercial.
Came commercial.
Yeah.
So you were 47th in command.
Probably.
Okay. And Bill, how did you get here?
I drove straight through 16 hours.
That's the more dangerous way. You
Yeah,
were
that's the most
that was
risky
the
of all.
riskiest way to get here.
Well, Yeah, there's a few close calls, but we made it. My wife is a good navigator. She's very efficient. She had the route all planned out, the flight plan filed, and we got in that little Ford Escape and left Kaiser, West Virginia 4 minutes after 7 a.m. on Saturday morning. And 16 hours and 10 minutes, we ended up at the motel.
I mean, if for those keeping track of time. I mean,
Sure.
Because every adventure is like a flight.
Oh, she logs it all down. She's
That's
very
good.
efficient.
That's good. Who had anybody with a close call on fuel? Anybody ever run out of fuel?
Yeah, I did.
Close?
I picked up some water,
Oh.
and it putting gas into the airplane, and it sucked water out of the tank. And I was flying along, and I always switch tanks over an airfield. I switched tanks, and the engine just started to windmill. And so I went into the emergency procedures and started towards a descent, and then tried to get it switched back to the tank. That didn't work, and then finally threw the boost pump on, and thank God it ignited, and then we just kept on going. I didn't even tell ATC I was having problems, but it was an attention getter.
Well, what kind of aircraft were you in?
It's a Beechcraft, a Bonanza, an F-33.
F-33? Yeah, they're sometimes unforgiving if they don't run on water.
They don't run on water, and they don't like hot starts.
No, they don't.
So
it takes a while.
It was a challenge. It took me about 2 minutes to actually get it lit up, and I thought I was going to dead stick it in.
Well, yeah, the only reason I brought up the fuel situation is I get really interested when I hear student pilots, folks that are trying to kind of cut their teeth in aviation, and they start talking about a fuel gauge. And I said, well, the gauge said I've got half a tank. I said, well, what happens if that gauge is wrong
Not
by
working.
a quarter of a tank? Oh, but it can't be, really. So I always use the term, and hopefully we'll spread it around, is that's not gallons in your tank, that's time in your tanks. And that's one way that you will never, ever run out of fuel, providing you have a good fuel system and a good
Right.
fuel supply.
Right.
Because that fuel starvation or fuel contamination will mess you up. But the starvation aspect of it is bad.
It ended up doing a lot of damage to my airplane. The
Yeah,
spider got plugged, and
Oh,
I had
yeah.
all kind of problems. It took me probably a year to figure out what was causing the problem, and we traced it back to debris
Back to
in
the
contaminated
tank.
water.
Yep,
Yep.
it'll happen.
Yeah. And it didn't happen right away. It took about 4 months for it to show up.
And when do you anticipate a fuel, or not a fuel problem, but a power failure?
Usually on takeoff, obviously, and then, anytime you switch a tank, it could be a problem.
Anytime.
Anytime.
Anytime. I know the power plant manufacturers, they don't like to hear that, but and it's not necessarily just the manufacturers. A lot of good engineering goes into it, and they do an excellent job, but every now and then there could be a problem. And Bill, you probably got 1,000 hours or so.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important from a safety aspect of engine can lose power at any time, at any position. Usually at the first power reduction after takeoff is if something's going to snap or go wrong, it's either going to go wrong on full power up or as soon as you pull the power back. So it's always good to do this emergency procedures. Emergencies, and Helen, I'm sure water flying and emergency procedures are just, it's ingrained. It's kind of memory item. And Paul, I know that
Yeah, it saved my life.
Yeah, and you don't even have to think about it.
Right.
And bringing youth into this is one thing that the Central Florida Aerospace Academy across the street here, and you see an awful lot around Sun and Fun about youth activities, encouraging youth to get more involved in our vocation, the industry. And a thing that I'm trying to do, and hopefully you guys will agree, is the term leading a horse to water but can't make him drink?
Mm-hmm.
You can take all of the young people, all the kids in the world, and shove them into an airport, an airplane environment, put them up in an airplane, and isn't this cool? Look at this needle here. If they're not interested, you're not going to be able to force them into
Right.
that. So it's our job to create the environment that they want to come in and make. The curiosity is the best way to get them involved. So that's where I think that we need to just really create this environment of, hey, it's cool to be around airplanes. Airplane etiquette, don't run on a ramp. Don't touch a prop unless somebody asks you to, you know. There's just a lot of basic protocols that I think that we as a group, because I see the gamut here. Bill's been in it for since, what's the old term? Since, what do you call it? Since
Beginning of dirt.
If it was since Methuselah was a pup, I mean forever. Helen, you got started in it relatively as you were an adult, mature in life. Paul, when did you get started in aviation?
It was 86, 1986. I always wanted to do it as a kid. And I finally got to the point financially that I could afford to learn to fly.
Well, that's an interesting cross section here, because it does take an expense, but there's also so many ways. Bill talking about building balsa wood models. You know, there's ways that kids can get involved from a very early age. I used to remember
I built kites.
kites. Well, that flies. And you ever built a kite and not put a tail on it? Not very
All
stable.
the time. I built stunt kites. They don't have tails.
Oh, okay. Well, so they were the control.
Dual
Okay.
control.
I've never flown one of those
I'll teach
controllables.
you sometime if you like.
That's fun. All it takes is wind, I guess,
And a kite.
and a kite. Okay, and some skill to work the controls. Paul, build an aircraft.
Nope.
Never got involved with
I
that.
have no mechanical ability. That's why I have a good mechanic, like Bill.
well-
I need somebody with good skill sets, because that's not my strength.
Well, but there's ways to. That's the beauty part about aviation, is there's something for everyone.
Right.
But there are some prerequisites. You got to know procedures. You got to be able to follow instruction to learn initially, and then Helen, you being the flight instructor currently, and I know Bill is flight instructed a lot, but law of primacy, teaching them right the first time, is typically what they're going to revert back to when there's a problem. So that's why it's so important to get these folks that are either sitting behind the cameras or walking around the campus here to get them to learn the right way in the first place.
Exactly.
Paul, starting from your end, we've got a few more minutes coming this way. Anything that you'd like to share more from? You're going to be here all week.
Mm-hmm.
Are you camping, or are you staying at a
No,
hotel?
I'm staying at a hotel.
Oh, Paul, you got to fly down the next time, and you got to camp.
Well, I
in
do
a
that
tent.
at Oshkosh. I usually fly to Oshkosh and camp, and I've done that for 25 years.
Okay, so
faithfully.
you come down
But-
commercial, staying at a hotel.
Yep.
You probably eat in restaurants.
Probably
Oh,
am.
come on, Paul.
Yeah, well, it's
You
vacation.
got to have a scalded dog, and
It's a vacation.
we'll get you out here under the wing.
Okay.
Helen.
I'm camped under my wing, and I brought a bunch of students that are camped
That's
under
what
my
I'm
wing
talking
too.
about.
So we have anybody who's tired of the snow is camped under my wing right now from
That's
Maryland.
that's the way to do it. All due respect, Paul. but Helen, that's the spirit.
Yeah.
And how many folks came down with you?
I've got right now under my wing. I've got a student and a graduate of ours, and then we've got I think there's probably at least a half a dozen of us. You know, they're floating around the campus that have come down to various other ways. So.
Well, that's fun. Did you get? You're under the wing of your aircraft.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, so you're not back in the campgrounds under the trees. And,
No, I'm under my wing. Mhm.
well, that's good. And that gives you some shelter.
Unless a tornado comes through, I've been there, done that.
Oh, and you weathered it.
Been there, done that. And I got the T-shirt.
Good.
And the new tent got taken off on my taxes.
Good. That's what it's for. Really is. Bill, you drove down.
I drove, and I used to camp in the early days at Oshkosh, and then when my wife and I started going together at Oshkosh, she wanted a high-class motel with a mint on the pillow. No camping for her. I told her she's missing all the fun.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to thank her for being patient, and then on the same time we're going to try to get her to come down. And you think we'll ever be able to get her in a tent? here at the
Well, that's
Florida Aviation?
possible. A wigwam or something like that, maybe.
Well, there's a term called roughing it smoothly, and that's like driving a motorhome down. Roughing it smoothly, as they say. But maybe she would go for that someday.
Well, probably a motorhome's out of the question. Maybe I may get her in her tent one of these days, but it's not likely.
We can always hope. We can always hope.
Yeah, sure. Never ever say no.
No, heavens no. And keeping your options. Just to expand on that a little bit, since we have a few minutes, options in the seaplane, in your Sea Ray, you're flying along, Helen, and everything's wonderful. Beautiful blue sky. What could go wrong? In the back of your mind, you're always thinking, and this is for the benefit of our youth walking around that would like to learn how to fly, and you kind of have to teach yourself to always keep in the back of your mind that there's things that can go wrong and how you're going to handle it, rather than, oh my goodness, we got an emergency, you quit flying the airplane. So keeping your options open. What do you do as you're flying along on a cross country? And I like to use the term fat, dumb, and happy, because I mean, you just don't know what's about to happen if something bad's going to happen. So what do you do to keep your options in your mind going and thinking? And do you have a certain ritual?
I think being prepared is the biggest thing. I mean, we always wear life vests in the aircraft in there, and I always have PLBs and ELTs, 406 megahertz units and things, and so we can call for help. And
PLBs, for the folks that don't know what PLB means.
personal locating beacons. If
That
your
comes
airplane
in.
sinks, your ELT will not be helpful.
Correct.
So, but if your PLB is attached to your life vest, you can still call for help.
And you're bobbing, somebody can come and pluck you out of the water.
Yeah, exactly. And we also don't fly when the water temperature is so cold as to cause hypothermia, which is why the airplane's parked right now.
I don't blame you. Well, folks, thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on your award, Paul. And Helen, thank you for being here.
Can I invite everybody to our Sea Ray presentation?
Absolutely.
Because we're going to be doing Mike Pearson, who's the president of the Sea Ray Flight Instructors Association, and I am who's the vice president. We're going to be doing a presentation 11 o'clock Thursday and Saturday at the Sea Ray booth, and we'd love to have everybody come on over. We'd be happy to. We're going to be talking all about flying or traveling in a Sea Ray.
Good. And you got that? You got the timing and everything on the presentation?
You asking me?
Yeah, okay. They got that. They got it. All right, they got it. I just got it. Thank you so much, folks. Bill, since you're closest, and this is an air shake. Okay, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to go out to the field to, I believe we've got Tammy out there in the field that's going to be, okay, we're going to close it out. So thank you so much, and we'll see you at next interview.